Hey guys, welcome back. This is the Fantasy Football Upside. I am Kyle, and Justin will be back probably tomorrow. We'll hope he's ready to go. Thanks for dropping by our Fantasy Football Podcast YouTube channel. Here we are, guys. We're going to handle some waiver wire stuff today. Week 2 was an absolute disaster for a lot of people on the health front. And so here we are, trying to help you plug all those holes that you now have in your roster, see if we can't figure out some solutions for some of you who have lost guys for the season, lost some for multiple weeks, and lost other guys. It's just kind of up in the air at this point. But we'll see what we can figure out for you. Now is the biggest time you've got to win on the waiver wire. It's the early part of the season. That makes it important to begin with, but then you add in the massive amounts of carnage that we've gotten in the last 2 weeks, actually. And it makes, heading into week 3, this waiver wire is extremely important. We are going to talk about players who are rostered at 60% or less on Yahoo primarily as the primary source for where those percentages are coming from. Again, this is week 3 that we're aiming for here. Lots of injuries out there. Let's make sure that we fill those holes in our rosters. And let's dive in headfirst into the shallow end, guys. I've got Justin's picks for the week as well as mine here, and we're going to give you 2 running backs total, 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, and 2 QBs. We've been talking about it. In the future, we'll probably cut QBs out of this list, and I think we're going to add a flex spot so it would be our top running back or wide receiver that's not already listed. And let's talk about the first running back here. This is Justin's running back selection, and that is Mike Davis with the Panthers. He is currently rostered in 6% of leagues on Yahoo. He's the immediate backup, it looks like, in Carolina. He took over immediately after McCaffrey was out in the fourth quarter. They were playing from behind, so primarily the work that was available was pass-catching work, and that's likely what you're going to see him targeting or focusing on going forward. The only other running back that they have on the active roster is Trenton Cannon, who's a smaller guy. And then they do have Reggie Bonifant, who some of you might remember from years past, but he's actually just sitting on the practice squad. They cut him and then re-signed him to their practice squad. So he might get elevated into the active roster. We'll see. We'll keep an eye out for that. You should also keep an eye out for some possible veteran addition there. Right now, Mike Davis is probably at best a RB3, but my guess would be a flex while Christian McCaffrey is out. One little tiny suggestion, and the guys in my legal, if they're watching, I'm going to hate this because I would love to make a play on a trade for this guy at this point. I would keep an eye out for Curtis Samuel to start getting some carries, actually. Believe it or not, Curtis Samuel had nearly double the rush yards than pass yards his senior year in college. His rookie year, he was hurt, and then last year he added on additional yardage in the pass game. So with this availability, I mean, before they had Christian McCaffrey, they didn't need to have him rush. I think there's a possibility that Curtis Samuel starts getting some of these runs. So keep an eye out for that. Maybe try to make a play if somebody else has him in your league, or just stash him on the back of your roster and see what happens. 4 to 6 weeks that McCaffrey's supposed to be out, but he is taking that as a challenge. The other running back that we have is Darrell Henderson Jr. He's currently rostered in 33% of the leagues. He got 12 rushes for 81 yards and a touchdown, 2 catches on 3 targets for 40 yards. And this was after Cam Akers left the game with an injury. The update that we have at this point is that Cam Akers has separated some cartilage. For a running back, that's a little bit tough. Apparently, that's not a serious injury. But if you're constantly getting hit in the side by people while you're running through the line, that's going to be a very, very difficult thing to do. So there's the possibility that Cam Akers misses some time. And if that does happen, then I imagine that Darrell Henderson is actually the fill-in for a little while. And so you could get a couple days of coverage out of that. There are some other guys out there on the waiver wire, but a lot of the activity was really in that first week, it appears. All right, let's go with wide receiver here. We still have Russell Gage listed here. He is only rostered in 22% of leagues. So if he's available, go ahead and grab him. He is edging up on a startable player, guys. Right now, he's hanging around wide receiver 4 territory. Could probably edge into that wide receiver 3 talk, and the odds are that he will get there. I think when that pass volume just keeps riding, his consistency is looking great. We had him on here last week. He's had 21 targets in the first 2 weeks. That is a heavy amount of value. And if you're in a PPR league, you better be running to the wire and picking this guy up. I imagine those 22% of leagues that have him rostered are PPR leagues. But you're going to go ahead and grab him because he could be a great starter during your bye weeks, and that would be really awesome for you. The other wide receiver that we're going to talk about tonight is N'Keal Harry. He's only rostered in 27% of leagues right now. Last night or on the Sunday night game, he was 8 of 12 for 72 yards. Look, 12 targets in one game signals that maybe Cam Newton is starting to look a little bit more than run. And so as a result of that, it's evident that he's targeting only 2 guys on this team, and that is Julian Edelman and N'Keal Harry. N'Keal Harry is a much, much bigger guy than Edelman is, and so he's going to be found on the outside of this field all the time. Some of the moves that he was making in that game on Sunday were pretty good. This is a situation that could pan out for you, especially considering how badly that running back situation is playing out in New England. Right now, they've got Sony Michel, who is just always banged up, always terrible. They've got Damian Harris on IR. They've got Rex Burkhead that they keep putting in there. They're not going to be able to run many more people out there other than Cam Newton. So at this point, my guess is that they're going to have to start leaning on that passing game. And that is not what Belichick wanted to do, but it is going to be what's going to happen. So N'Keal Harry presents value. And if you've got a spot to stash him, I would go grab him. All right. First tight end that we have for you is, again, another guy from last week, and that's Logan Thomas. He remains at 32% rostered right now. He's getting a generous amount of the targets from Dwayne Haskins. The issue is obviously that Dwayne Haskins is not a very accurate passer all the time. So you're looking at matchups a little bit more than you would probably want to look at. So if you are very, very light at tight end because you've done what we've indicated, which is that you should only have one tight end on your team, and then you got that guy hurt, or it was Kittle or somebody like that who's going to miss some time, Logan Thomas is a very, very powerful option for you. He's clearly the number 2 pass-catching option on that team. He's very athletic. He can turn a lot of catches into yards and TDs, guys. The other tight end that I want to bring up is Tyler Eifert. He was spotted. He was spotted there in Jacksonville's game this weekend against, I believe it was the Titans, if I recall. He's only 10% rostered. Minshew discovered him, guys. He finally figured it out that Tyler Eifert is there, and he had 6 targets, 3 catches, 36 yards, and a touchdown. That's pretty solid as far as the tight end realm goes. That's not the greatest thing. You obviously want more targets, you want more catches, but you got to dial it down a little bit. And remember, this is the tight end. This is not the wide receiver room that we're dealing with. He very well could still continue to develop as Minshew, starts getting some rapport with him. He could develop into a consistent tight end 1 for you. And so that is somebody that you have to consider. And especially with the rate of injuries to the tight end position this year, it's somebody you should target and think about, guys. All right. So moving on to our QBs, we've got Ryan Tannehill. He is 46% rostered presently. He's averaging 29 points per game in 6-point touchdown leagues. He's very efficient. Even with wide receiver A.J. Brown out in week 2, he was still efficient. He still did a good job. Week 3, they have a game against Minnesota, who is signing guys off the street to play in the secondary right now, guys. That secondary does not look very good at all right now. I know T.Y. Hilton didn't show up against them, and Paris Campbell got hurt, but they were able to throw. Indianapolis was able to throw the ball against Minnesota this last weekend. So look, Tannehill's got a good matchup with Minnesota coming up, but then he runs into 2 really tough matchups between the Steelers and the Bills the following 2 weeks. So that one is Justin's suggestion, and that would not be my top suggestion. My top suggestion is actually Gardner Minshew. We've mentioned how much we like Minshew before. Now's the time to put him on your roster. He's 32% rostered. He's killing it. And he looks like what Baker Mayfield was supposed to look like, right? So he is coming off of back-to-back 3 touchdown games. And then you add into that the juicy 4-game run that he's got coming up. This slate is beautiful for him. It's Miami, Cincinnati, Houston, and Detroit. These are all defenses that are giving up a lot of pass work, a lot of points to the QB. And for Minshew, hey man, he is going to finish in the top 12 this year. I am convinced of it at this point. They have a lot of pass catching options. And here's the proof. DJ Chark has disappeared, and yet Minshew is still throwing a lot of points up on the board, guys. So go after Minshew. Go after all of these guys. There's some good options there. Hit us up with some questions for, who should you start, whether you should pick up a guy, who you should drop if there's a guy available, that sort of stuff. Throw those comments down in the description or down in the comments below. We're going to come back and we'll talk about our Thursday night football matchup as well as our stash and cut here on Wednesday. Make sure that you're subscribed and that you click that bell so that you're notified every time that we upload the best fantasy football podcast on the internet. We thank you guys for being fans of the Upside, and we'll see you next time. Bye.